So you're actually thinking of doing the road trip of a lifetime, the Alaska Highway. Well, as I said on my travel blog, you can do it, I'm sure. When Kay and I went to Alaska towing our fifth wheel, we had the Milepost magazine in the cab of the truck along with our fold-out maps, and we referred to them often. This thing has got coffee stains and comments in the margins and everything, and we went up and back and didn't have any trouble. So the Milepost was really a tremendous resource, but it's so comprehensive that at times it's almost overwhelming. There's just so much information there, and there's a learning curve to figure out how to read it, whether you're going north or south or whatever. So I'll tell you, what would have really been helpful for us is what I'm doing for you now, and that is a day-to-day guide from point A to point B for each day. Yeah. So there are some things to take care of before you start. First of all, make sure your vehicle is in really good condition. Have a mechanic replace any worn belts or hoses and change the oil in your tow vehicle. Tires should be in really good condition all the way around with a good spare on hand. Take a supply of cash along with your credit cards, which may or may not work at some roadhouses. There are ATMs in a few spots along the way, delivering Canadian currency, of course. Get used to navigating without your cell phone. You are not likely to have service except in a few towns. Weak Wi-Fi can be found at a few RV parks, so each night you may be able to plot your map for the next day. GPS may or may not work depending on where you are on the Alaska Highway. Getting to mile zero. The official Alaska Highway begins at Dawson Creek in northern British Columbia. When we did it, we had to drive 1,900 miles from Ventura, California, and it took us 8 days just to get to the start of the Alaska Highway. We stayed at Northern Lights RV Park on the hill west of the town of Dawson Creek. Okay, here we go. Day 1, Dawson Creek to Fort Nelson. Stock up on provisions before leaving Dawson Creek. You won't find another good market for several days. Fill the tank, then drive your first 101 miles to the Esso station at 101 British Columbia. Fill your tank again. Drive 181 miles over easy hills and through forests on wide open highway to Fort Nelson. We chose the Triple G RV Park for our overnight. The power grid ends at Fort Nelson. Day 2, Fort Nelson to Coal River or Watson Lake, 225 miles or 319. Fill up the tank and head upward from Fort Nelson. You will be topping a high pass, the Summit Pass, in a couple of hours, so remember to engine brake, that is downshift to second gear, on the downgrades to save your brakes. This section takes a while if you're towing a heavy rig. Your speed will be down to 35 miles an hour on winding mountain roads. At 118 miles, stop at Toad River for fuel and lunch if you want to. The restaurant at Toad River Lodge has about 7,000 baseball caps attached to the ceiling of the dining room. Drive another 107 miles to Coal River Lodge, Muncho Lake, British Columbia, a lonely outpost in the wilderness. Basic services are available, including diesel fuel, and at the restaurant inside, their signature buffalo burger at a ridiculous price. Of course, everything north of Dawson Creek will be expensive. There's a bare bones campground with 20 amp electrical and a laundromat, all run from a generator on site. We found friendly owners and had a great time at Coal River, but not everybody will like the Spartan accommodations that haven't been upgraded since the place was built in the 1940s. If it is not to your liking, fuel up there and head for the downtown RV park at Watson Lake, another 101 miles. Day 3, Coal River to Whitehorse, Yukon Territory, 359 miles. Fuel up. This is a more ambitious jaunt with 2 stops. First, drive 101 miles to Watson Lake, if you didn't go there last night. Tour the Sign Forest in the middle of town and fuel up at the tag station at the west end of town, where there's a deli with deep-fried delights and a little store. You will be crisscrossing the British Columbia Yukon Territory border a couple of times today. Drive on through the forests and hills to Teslin, where you can fuel up at the Yukon Motel and Restaurant, or the Misutlan Trading Post. Then on to Whitehorse and the Pioneer RV Park, where you might be able to get Wi-Fi. If you have any mechanical issues, you might find help in Whitehorse. Day 4. Whitehorse to White River, 249 miles. Fuel up and head west to Haines Junction. We experienced some awful roads and construction in this section, but maybe it's fixed now. I have a hunch that it's ongoing. Fuel up again at Haines Junction and continue to White River and the Yukon Lodgings Campground, which is easy to miss on the left side after a bend in the road in the middle of nowhere. There's no town. Keep an eye on your mileage and watch for it. If you come out of the woods and cross a river and come to Beaver Creek, you just passed it. Day 5. White River, Yukon Territory to Delta Junction, Alaska, 249 miles. Fuel up at Beaver Creek, then head across the U.S. border, and at 142 miles, stop at Tok. Fuel up at Chevron or Shell or Tesoro. Head west to Delta Junction, another 107 miles, and maybe camp at the Alaska RV Ranch. Congratulations, you have just completed the official Alaska Highway, approximately 1,365 miles. However, you're still in the middle of nowhere. So, Day 6. Delta Junction to Denali National Park, 244 miles by way of Fairbanks. If you go southwest through Anchorage, add another 80 miles or so. At Fairbanks or Anchorage, stock up on provisions at the Fred Meyer store, because everything at Glitter Gulch, the tourist village a mile from the entrance of Denali National Park, will cost at least twice the price, and many items will not be available at all. Congratulations again, and check this off your bucket list. You have covered the Alaska Highway and beyond, a distance of 1,580 miles by way of Fairbanks. We stayed at the Rainbow Village RV Park, which is right behind the row of log cabin shops on the east side of the highway in Glitter Gulch, affectionately called the Canyon by the locals. It is not actually an incorporated municipality, so your map app might not be able to find it. Try searching for Healy, a small town north of the canyon a few miles, or try Denali National Park. You'll only be a mile off at the entrance. We stayed about 6 weeks hiking and biking around the area and venturing into Denali National Park for hiking and sightseeing. Then we took 11 days to make the return trip down to Lincoln, Nebraska, then home to Michigan a few days later. We covered about 7,500 miles overall. Now you only have to get back down. So, are you going to do it? Do it and have fun and be safe.